I'm very excited to host our next guest on the Cool Karnis, my father-in-law, Dr. H.K. Narahari. He was born in a traditional and a lower middle class household in Mysore. His illustrious father, Hunsur Krishnamurthy ji, had just started scaling new heights in the Kannada film industry around the late 1950s with his memorable songs, with his impactful dialogues, and eventually with his written and directed movies, prime among them being Babru Vahana, Bhakta Kumbara, and who can forget Satya Harishchandra. In one such period drama that he was directing called as Veera Sankalpa, which incidentally is the debut movie of Kannada's darling comic star Dwarakish, also debuted two child artists, my father-in-law and his younger brother. The movie met with decent critical and commercial success, so there was a bright star kid that was waiting to happen. But this potential Nepo kid had other thoughts in mind and he decided to become a rocket scientist instead. But the acting and the storytelling genes that ran in him found its ways at various occasions to express themselves. You must listen to the story he narrates about his first US travel. As the Hindi saying goes, Poot ke paav palne mein hi nazar aate, which means that the true calling or the true skills are seen very early in the childhood. It definitely holds true in his case because he tried some bold science experiments as a kid, which probably did not give the results the way he wanted, but that surely paved path for him to be part of India's key space programs, including the Tejas program. Life kept taking new turns for him every decade until his retirement a couple of years ago. So without further ado, I invite you to tune in to this two-part podcast with Dr. H.K. Narahari. So whether you are a Kannada movie buff, or you're a student of science, or you're just interested in the story of another cool Karni, this podcast will keep you engaged and give you a lot of insightful tidbits. So let me end with my usual request. If you're enjoying this, please do like and comment on the video and share it along with your friends. And please do subscribe to the channel to tune in to other similar cool Karnis and their wonderful and inspiring journeys. This is Sanjeev Kulkarni, and let's begin with the episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kulkarnis. This is your host and host Sanjeev Kulkarni. I have a very special guest with me today, and I'll tell you why he's special as we progress. Let me first introduce and welcome our guest, Dr. H.K. Narahari. Hello, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your broadcast.
And welcome to our podcast. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Doing fine.
Fantastic. And we'll be more fine as we progress. Why don't you introduce yourself to our guests?
Okay, briefly, my name is H.K. Narahari, or my Hunsur Krishnamurthy Narahari as the full expansion. I'm basically an aerospace engineer by training who worked in the different industries as I progressed through my life. So let's leave it at that and let's take it from you, what you want to discuss about.
Absolutely. And just to introduce the podcast to you, this is a podcast and it's called as the Cool Karnis because we celebrate the cool deeds of our achievers that we have here, or trailblazers as we call them. And the reason I said he's special is because he's my father-in-law as well. So there is a very interesting side of his journey that I'm aware of, but we want to uncover that as we progress through this journey. That was a very humble introduction that you gave, and probably that is what you are at heart. But when I view your journey, I see your journey unveil or change after every decade.
That's about right.
So 60s started off as you being a wannabe child artist.
Yeah.
Right?
Unknowingly
or knowingly, we'll uncover that. Then 70s ended up with your studies, education, and then you getting your doctorate, PhD degree. 80s and 90s was probably all about working in that dream space for you, and then you ventured into IT,
Right.
And then you ventured into automobile. That's in the next century, in the millennium as well, in a way. 2000s was all about getting into the automotive industry. And then finally, the last decade was all about you being in faculty. And now there is a new decade. So let's unravel this journey right from the start.
Okay.
So let's start from your childhood.
Okay. We are five of us, five siblings. I am the eldest of the five children, two sons, me and my younger brother, and three sisters. And our childhood was a little bit chaotic. My father was most of the time busy in his work in the movie industry. And he was also a keen person in introducing new talents into this. So we used to have a lot of people come into our house, whoever came from Mysore or Hunsur. They would end up at home, and many of them stayed at home. For example, the people he has
introduced. Where was home?
Where was home? Home was in a place called Raipeta in Chennai. That's where most of the film industry was in those days. Now slowly it has moved to Hyderabad, and some of it has moved to Kerala, and some of it to Mysore. But those days, everybody, all Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, stayed in Chennai. So in Raipeta house, we had all kinds of people staying. It was nicknamed as Hunsur Chatra, because whoever came there stayed with us.
Chatra being a tent or a hall.
A free for where people can come and stay and eat. So most of the time it will be about 15-20 people sitting down on the floor and eating same food. So I grew up in an environment where there was no discrimination of any kind. All the people who were there sat together, including my father, whenever he was at home other than work. So that's the way we grew up. And parents were too busy for them to give much of attention to us. We were not pampered. We were just left as it is. And my father never asked me about my grades. The only question is, did you pass? If pass, go to the puja room, do namaskar. That's it. No pampering, no nothing.
And I'm sure it might not have happened with you, but if you did not pass, what would you have?
That was not an event. Okay. No, not an event. Not much of a thing. In the school I studied there are a lot of Jesuit schools in Chennai. My father was keen on me studying in a school which is started by the Hindus. That time there were only two. One was a Ramakrishna Mission. The other was called Hindu High School. Ramakrishna Mission School was far away. Hindu High School was close to home. A bus journey of 3-4 kilometers. And that school was already 100-year-old when I joined there in the 5th grade.
Wow.
So that's a very
old. Be more than 150,
170. Yeah. And a lot of known people studied there, including our ex-president, Dr. Radhakrishnan, or more recently, Kamal Hassan.
Wow.
So that is a very well-known, popular school there, run by Hindus and pretty strict. But luckily, we did not have any uniform and things like that, so it was quite okay. Main advantage is that school was very close to Chepak cricket grounds. So whenever you bunk class, you go to the cricket match. It was also very close to the Marina Beach where we go and frolic in the water. So childhood was free for all.
So were you found more at the Chepak and Marina Beach, or were you found more on the first bench?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
What? In the beach?
In the beach. I had to admit that. So at that time, my father was making a movie on the Vijayanagar Empire, the aftermath of the collapse of the Vijayanagar Empire, when there were feeble attempts to bring it back to its glory.
Okay. I'll probably stop you here for a minute. Sorry. I want to take this a bit back. Okay. So you said your father was in the movie industry, Kannada movie industry to be specific. Is that right? What is it that he did?
He started off as a lyricist. And then he moved into dialogue writing, screenplay. Then he became a director, and then he became a producer. If I remember right, his first movie direction was called Krishna Garudi, which had Rajkumar and others. It's a Puranic story. There is a very popular song in that movie, Bombay Atavaya, Ee Jagave, Brahmanda, Bombay Atavaya. So that's very popular. Even now, it is played in many orchestras. So that was his thing. And his basic strength was in writing. He was very good at writing. But before he struggled a lot. That's what he used to tell us. He worked under a watch repairer. He worked under a radio repairer before he found his calling, as they say nowadays. He had to find that thing. Then he got a chance. He went to Bombay and worked with Shantaram's team.
V. Shantaram.
V. Shantaram's
Oh,
team.
wonderful.
As one of the the third or fourth assistant kind of thing. Then he came back to Karnataka and then worked with a group called Shankar Singh's.
What time frame are we talking roughly?
These are all before my birth. I was born in 52, sorry. And this was before, right? So
like pre-independence India?
Yeah, no, pre-independence India. He was also in the drama company. There was a we called a Peer Sahab drama company. There are two drama companies, main Gubbi Virana and Peer Sahab. So he used to be in that. And then in those days he used to have the pen name Gautama. That's the Gotra, so he used to write under that pen name.
What did he write?
Many of the things. For example, he wrote dramas on Buddha.
Dramas themselves.
Dramas. And one of the dramas he wrote was called Makmal Topi, about a person who collected money from different people and then, ran away with that, or whatever you want to call that. So that, you can see similarities in this Raj Kapoor movie 420, where he takes money from people. And this was a real incident in Karnataka which happened. And even very well-known people, including the Nobel laureate Sir C.V. Raman, had kept his money with him. And my father's brother-in-law also had kept money. So based on this, you can say inputs, he wrote a drama, which later Master Hirannaya converted into another drama, same thing. So from drama, he came into writing small songs here and there, ghost writing for others in the movie industry, until he became well known enough to start his own writing in his own name.
Wow. This is a very fascinating. Sorry for deviating here slightly, because sometimes it helps to understand where your inspirations or where your journey has started. So it's very helpful in that sense. But just to set things into perspective for our viewers as well, there are a few names that Narahari took here. First is, I'm just going in an order, not priority in that sense, but he talked about Dr. Rajkumar, or Rajkumar as they say in Karnataka. To put things in perspective, you can think of him as Dilip Kumar, Rajesh Khanna and Amitabh Bachchan all rolled into one. That is probably the stature that he holds in the Kannada film industry. And the way you narrated the journey of your father, probably most of us, at least me, because I'm born and raised in Bombay, probably my influence is a bit more of the Hindi industry. But this sounds a lot like, having grown up the journey and having understood everything. The closest I can find is probably Gulzar Saab, whose journey also sounds very similar, where you started right from the scratch.
Right.
Having worked at a cycle repairer's place, then found his calling and then coming here. Of course, he's much junior to your father, but that journey is probably what I'm able to recollect as you call this out.
Yeah, he struggled a lot, and he used to tell us the first time he bought any kind of chappal or footwear was when he was 22-year-old or something like that.
Oh my God.
Till that time he was barefoot.
And this was out of poverty?
Yeah, poverty, because essentially comes from a agricultural family, and he had certain disagreements with his other siblings, so he left everything and then moved out. After marriage, I think I was born in Mysore. I don't remember too much of that, and he moved to Chennai. That's where more opportunities were there.
So until then, the family was in Mysore itself?
Yes, in Mysore.
Okay.
And that time there was a well-known producer called Shankar Singh. His son Rajendra Singh Babu also is a well-known director. He made very well-known movie called Muttinahara, which was an excellent movie. His father, so my dad used to work with him, along with him. So that is how he got into script writing, and in those days even he had to act, because if you are in a drama industry, you have to be able to do anything. Whoever is absent that day, you have to take the role. So one day you are acting as a hero, next day as a villain, third day you may be selling tickets at the counter, depending on who is there or not there. So you end up being versatile. That's why if you see any actor who has come from the drama theatre, he is extremely versatile in anything, because that's how
they've seen everything from close.
Yeah, they have grown up and they are trained on that. So when they entered the film industry, in the first movie, if I remember right, as a independent director was Krishnamurthy. Then after that, there were very many movies he directed, some 25, 26. And he also wrote lyrics in many movies. Some of them are extremely popular. One thing about him was, even in those days, he had a very good scientific temper. And he was an open-minded about everything. Can you imagine in 1952, when I was born, he has gone and registered my birth, and I have a birth certificate. Many people from my era, or even 20 years later, they don't have.
They won't remember the birth date.
Yeah. So he was modern enough to go and get it done. And but he also had a weakness for numerology. Since I was born in 1952, 8th of May, 1952 adds to 8th of May, and according to Chirio's numerology, people born on 8 as a number either end up as very good or very bad. So what he did is he changed my birthday to 1951. Okay. So I asked him, why didn't you make it 53?
Yeah, correct.
But he says, no, then somebody will say, Tathastu, your age will be reduced. So you have a person modern enough to go and get my birth certificate registered, modern enough to say all this, eclipses are all, astronomical units, you don't have to bother. We all used to, sit on the roof to watch a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, everything. There was no fear about, some vague things happening and all. He also used to say all this illness, chickenpox, smallpox, whatever. They're all diseases, nothing to do with God's getting angry with us. Who are we for him to get angry on? We are nowhere compared to the God. So why should he bother to, mess with us? So we all used to get, cholera inoculation, smallpox, this, whatever was there, everything. So all those things, he had a very good scientific temper.
But he had this thing about numerology.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I think this background is very helpful. So now we'll come back to the point where we had paused. So now there is a movie that you get involved in, and you have his name will appear on IMDb, guys, by the way, if you want to look at it, and we'll talk about the movie as well. So that's obviously not his first movie. He has done many movies by then. So he'll hear about that.
There. At that time, he was making a movie called Veer Sankalpa. As I said, this is a movie based on the story after the collapse of the Vijayanagara Empire. If somebody is interested, you can look at a book called Forgotten Empire, written by Mr. Robert Sewell. It's about the Vijayanagara Empire. In that, there is a chapter. In that chapter, there is the story which is made into movie.
The book came first, or the movie?
The book was older.
So was the father inspired by the book?
Yeah, he was inspired by the book. That I found out much later. So in that, there is a sequence where you can say a loyal chieftain wants to bring back the old Vijayanagara kingdom, and there is a lineage, some person who is there from that direct descendant. He wants to put him back into the throne. So he takes his son to the Hampi, where the ruins, and he explains to him, look, what a great past we had, and how Hampeyo, Halu Kompeyo, is where they were selling diamonds and pearls. Now you have donkeys running around. So this is the fate of, thing. Very, very powerful dialogues were there in that. One, for example, impacted me quite a lot. There is Ugra Narasimha there, a large statue of Narasimha with broken, distorted things and all that. So in that, there is a sequence, and it was a 2-minute part. So I was interested in going to Hampi. He said, look, we don't have free lunches in this. So there is a small 2-minute thing. If you are willing to do that, I'll take you in the car. Okay, so that's how
the deal was struck.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into. So I said, fine, no problem. So when I go there, they put a makeup on that, a wig on that, with all the period dress. And Hampi is a hot place. Bellary district is hot. And to stand there in the sun, and those days the cameras were film based, so they were not very sensitive. So they had to reflect sunlight onto your face. I could barely open my eyes. I say, hey boss, this is not what I signed up for.
Too much for a Hampi visitor.
Yeah. And if I say anything now, I'll get blasted. So I endured that, and then I later told him, I am not anymore interested in this. And surprisingly, he was very happy with that. He said, because he's seen the no glamour. See, in those days, there was no glamour in the movies. He's seen a lot of struggle and all that. So he said, okay, now he wanted to study, but he couldn't. So he said, me and my brother, whatever you want to do, you continue studies. So there ended my movie, I think.
So 2 minute movie career.
Incidentally, in that movie, there were other people who were introduced who succeeded in life. For example, Dwarakish, the Karnataka Kulla, as he is called, he was introduced in that movie. And another actor, B.M. Venkatesh, he also became a good actor, producer, and then all that thing. And Rajesh, whose original name was Vidyasagar, later named into Rajesh. And a lady called Vanishri, who became a top star in Telugu industry, acting with N.T. Ramarao and Nageshwar and all that.
All of these were introduced in that movie.
In that movie.
Needless to say, Dwarakish is your cousin. So
yes, and my other cousin is Bhargava, who was associate director. They also prospered. The only guy who didn't take off in the movie industry is me, apparently.
And your brother.
And my brother.
Who was also there in a very tiny role.
So there ends the thing. And
but not bad that out of probably how many you at least named 4 family members.
Yes.
And a good 4 others who were introduced, and they've all made it big. So it's kind of it became a fantastic launch pad for all of them.
They all stayed at home only while this being was filmed. Months, 15 days, 20 days, they all stayed at home. My parents never bothered.
So it's something about the food that your mother prepared probably.
Interestingly, whenever they came home later, they would first touch the feet of my mother before they did for my father. I say, call us Anna Hakidaru, the lady who fed us.
Correct.
Annapurna. And he is only Guru. So that was the thing. In the movie, in that, there is a dialogue. I am not fully recovering it. Kanda kadu kallu mannugalige kannu moogu ketti ಆರಾಧಿಸಿದೆವು. So, okay. And ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಗೋಹತ್ಯೆ, ಸ್ತ್ರೀ ಹತ್ಯೆ, ನರಹತ್ಯೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರುವಾಗ ಉಗ್ರ ನರಸಿಂಹ ವಿಗ್ರಹವಾಗಿ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಬಿಟ್ಟ. He didn't help us.
Correct.
So he ends with saying, ದೇವರಿಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನ.
Chenna was
the name of the
telling you.
Then he says, ಇಲ್ಲ ನಿರಾಶರಾದಾಗ ಈ ತರ ಆಗೋ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಕ್ಷಮಿಸು ಗುರುವೆ. So that is always in my head. If I know that will take us into philosophical ramblings later. We can do that one-on-one. So at that time, this was the thing. And I was always fascinated with scientific things, because quite close to our house in Chennai was a YMCA. And they used to screen movies. And one of the movies was the moon landing, I think somewhere in the mid-60s. Armstrong and Aldrin landing on the moon. So that really triggered my interest in
you would be like probably 14, 15. So the impressionable age for you.
At that time. So that is how I ended up. Then I used to get a magazine called Science Today, a monthly magazine in which a lot of articles and that. So that time I used to go to the library only to see these kind of things.
But we talked about your dad, but let's talk about your mom as well. I mean, where do you think you got this? Like, would you say it's only your father, or your mother was also a bit more scientifically, not scientifically in that purest sense, but did she have a curious mind as well?
Yes, she had a curious mind, and she was completely open-minded. In the sense that somebody will come and say, Amma, this is Annai Velangani, a very powerful lady. Annai Velangani is actually Mother Mary. It's a well-known church in the southern part of her. And she would accept it, and it goes into the puja room. For her, anything holy, irrespective of anything, religion, caste, everything. So that is how it was. So I that is what is imbibed in me. And this is what he practiced, my father practiced. And in fact, in this movie, Satya Harishchandra, there is a song which says, ಕುಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೀಳು ಯಾವುದೋ ಹುಚ್ಚಪ್ಪ, ಮತದಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವುದೋ, ಹುಟ್ಟು ಸಾಯು ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವುದು ಕೇಳಿ ಯಾವುದು. And he also
popular song
makes fun of ವಿಭೂತಿ ಬಳಗರೆ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ, ತಿಲಕ ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಸ್ವರ್ಗವೂ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ. So that time I believe there was a lot of criticism on that song as to how you can write this. So later he told me, when I was old enough to understand, he said in that movie the character who sings is Yamadharmaraya, Yama himself. So only he has the right to talk about about death and where do you guys end up.
Nobody else can.
Nobody else. So it is justified in that. So in that in a movie which was full of bhakti and Purana and miracles, he was able to squeeze in his belief in that
in between. And that's probably the beauty of, especially when you're a director, you're an editor, and you're a songwriter, maybe you have an advantage, unique advantage. But that's also the speciality of the songs that used to come then, that if you want to pass on some good message, you use a song as a way to pass the message.
Yes.
Unlike today, where it's only, for, I don't know what value songs are there, but let's not get digressed. But since you mentioned that song in particular, and we talked about some mega breaks that people got, another great artist got a break in that song, isn't it? And then he became big in the industry.
But he was actually introduced in my father's another movie called Ratna Manjari, which is one of those folklore movies, magic and this and that. Curiously, my father started working in movies which were in those days called social movies, meaning that none of these gods and miracles and all that, and involving ordinary people. Even there, his ideas were in the dialogues. For example, in one movie, I forget the name of the movie, he says, when a husband dies, why do we force the wife to forego the kumkum and the bangles and the flowers, and why do you force them to wear red sarees and this and that? Because he says, when a girl child is born, what do? We first put all the bangles and this and that. We decorate her. That is her birthright. After marriage, the only thing husband brings is the Mangal Sutra. So when the husband dies, just take that off. But everything else you should be allowed to wear.
And he believed in all this.
He believed in that. When his brother-in-law died, Dwarakish's father, he insisted that his sister will not go and undergo any change. She lived like that till the end. And he used to tell us also, if I pass away, ensure that your mother does not change. If anything, instead of red kumkum, she can keep a black one or whatever. That's up to her. But nothing else should change. So this kind of, you can say, revolutionary in those days thoughts.
Amazing. I think again, as I said, when you want to understand the journey of a person, it's important to understand the roots of the person. And all of this is really helpful, and we can see some of those in you. Clearly you didn't get into that direction, okay, but there are other beliefs of his which you are holding Absolutely. Very strong. Okay. So we talked about the 2-minute movie child artist role that you did. You had started talking about how you got interested in the world of science, and that's where we are part. So you have all the magazines coming in, you're watching these movies. But was science a big deal then, or you got interested in it? What I mean is, like, others around you were also in the same direction? Was there a peer thing?
Not really. Bhargava had passed his BSc, but he was into this movie full-fledged. And Dwarakish was a very innovative guy. He used to, make makeshift projectors and show movies, which I have also seen when I was young. So he was into that. But other than that, my father used to tamper, play around with radios and this and that. And other than that,
your friend circle?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
But science was part of the subject in the school.
Right.
So I showed more interest in that than trying to figure out, who planted trees along the road, the historical things kind of thing. So that's how it started, and it kind of progressed.
Okay.
Some disastrous things happened at home, like, I tried to build a radio at home, which never worked. I tried to come up with, medicines to kill the ants, never worked either. I tried to make a rocket. In those days, Udupati used to come in a metallic tube.
Okay.
I used to dismantle all the Diwali rockets and stuff on the thing and try to launch it. It exploded. All those things happened. None of them worked.
You got yelled at, or you passed it on to your siblings saying they did it?
No. I was the eldest. But the next one was nearly 6 years younger. So I had to take the brunt.
Okay.
But my father never really scolded me. My mother scolded me, and initially she used to whack us, but later never, because as I said once, I used to run away.
Exactly.
Get caught.
Out of reach.
Out of reach. Only time my father really hit me is when I made a very stupid thing. I had this brilliant idea that my cycle dynamo, I would take it and press it against a fan, and it will generate electricity, and I will feed it back to the fan. So for that,
your what? Cycle?
Had a dynamo, right?
Okay.
So when the cycle is moving, the dynamo thing will turn and the headlight will come on. So dynamo, I figured that somehow is generating electricity. So the idea was to take it up and press it against the fan instead of the tire. And that wire will come out. I will connect it back into the fan, and then now you have a fan running forever.
Okay.
For that, I pulled out a table and chair, and then I was trying to do that. So that's when he hit me. He was more worried about me getting hurt.
How old were you when you were doing it?
Don't remember quite.
Like school or?
Yeah, school. 15, 16. Because I had a bicycle with a dynamo, which was a big thing in those days. Probably 9th or 10th kind of thing.
Right.
So he told me this won't work. Later I realized, that's a perpetual machine. It won't work.
Yeah.
But this kind of vague things I used to do. And my father's other friends used to have told me, I don't remember that. Whenever they came, I used to ask them, can you get me screwdriver or a cutting player? Those are the kind of toys I
like to
play with. That's how it started. None of those things ever worked anyway, whatever I tried. But
the fun is in trying, not to. That probably that mindset or that ability to keep trying is what should be alive at all times.
Yes. So when I joined for my BSc in Mysore, because at that time my parents were shifting back to Mysore, the Karnataka government was interested in promoting movie industry in Karnataka. So shifted back to Mysore. So my graduate.
Now you're talking of 70s?
69, 70. 69, 72 was the period I did my BSc in physics and chemistry.
In Mysore?
Mysore. Physics, maths and things. Initial interest was in astrophysics, but the number of seats in Mysore University was 2, and it was not possible to get in. But when somebody said, you are always trying to fly things, why don't you apply to this institute called Madras Institute of Technology, again back to Chennai.
So you are an MIT graduate?
Yeah, MIT graduate. Incidentally, so was Dr. Abdul Kalam, our ex-president. He was the 6th or 7th batch, I am the 24th batch.
Okay.
And so was the previous ISRO chairman, Dr. Sivan. So that was a very well-known institution. I had no clue about that anything. So somebody said apply, I applied. And I got in. I chose aeronautical engineering. That institution, interestingly, the owner, the person who started, the founder, had a vision. He said, I don't want to start the standard civil, mechanical, electrical. So he wanted something new, what would come in the future. So he said, okay, automobiles are going to be a big thing in the future. So he started automobile engineering, electronics, instrumentation, and aeronautical engineering.
All of this.
So these are the 4 branches he started. And I chose the aeronautical engineering. So that's how it started. And then at that time, all of us, very few opportunities in India for jobs and things like that. So it's something called UPSC and joined Air Force. So I applied for Air Force Short Service Commission. And my 5 friends applied. But what happened, those guys were called for Mysore for short, recruitment board, service recruitment board in Mysore. Since my birth was in Mysore, they sent me to Varanasi. And there was no way I could reach there in time in those days. I had to appear in 4 days within Varanasi. And those days, if you want to go to Delhi, you had to book months in advance in the train. So I couldn't go. But none of these guys anyway got selected. Everybody flunked in physics, not in the psychology test or everything else. So otherwise, I would have ended up there as an Air Force guy. If they had, I don't know whether I would have been selected or not, but at least I would have had a chance.
But eventually you did work in that field.
I eventually worked in that field. So I joined Indian Institute of Science. Again, they had a.
So this is after you did your MSc,
BSc, BTech, and then ME. So that's when again there was an interesting episode there when I joined. Till that time, schooling was free. Pre-university there was a fees. BTech there was a fees, monthly semester fees. So when I joined Indian Institute of Science, my mom asked how much money should we send. I said no need. They are giving me money themselves. So she was puzzled. Some kind of lousy place. They are giving money to the students to attend. So she told my father, and my father apparently checked with somebody. And that person was shocked. Said, your son has joined there? He said, why is it that bad? He said, no sir, it's not that bad. Sir, C.V. Raman is teaching there. So it's, again, that's a 100-year-old institution.
He was teaching when you were there?
No.
Okay.
He had retired.
Okay.
He started his own institution called Raman Research Institute, which is another famous institute in Bangalore now. But he was teaching there in the physics department. The director was Dr. Satish Dhawan, who was also the chairman of the Space Commission.
Correct.
And that time I joined aeronautical engineering. Then I got interested in rockets. So my specialization was in rocket propulsion. That's how I ended up there. At that time, again, job opportunities were not many. So institute, as like you have in the US, project assistants, research scholar assistants. So I joined that there.
What time frame are we talking about here?
This is 77.
77. Okay. And this is also when your PhD and your work is kind of going.
Work started first. Working. Then the professor said, look, you're anyway working in this area. There are a lot of open questions. So PhD always starts with some open questions, something you observed in the lab. You want to explain that. You want to try to understand why that's happening. Okay. For example, you are a cricket enthusiast. The reverse swing part of it. So there is somebody who did the research and find how is it that the reverse swing is happening? Why is it happening and how do we induce it? So this is something which you can do a PhD on, and somebody has done that.
On reverse swing?
Yes.
Wow.
And that is how, any PhD starts like that. There's something which is there, which is not known. Why is it happening this way? So you try to understand that, you come out with a theory and explain that, and then if it is new enough and if it's complex enough, you get your degree.
So you're working and in parallel you're doing your...
later. And of course, you can say that I also, fell in love and then ended up getting married in 1979.
So that's also probably a first. In many ways, you have been revolutionary, and this is also one of the first.
Interestingly, when I sent a photograph of her to my parents, they never asked me anything. My father said, "You are going to live with me." They didn't even ask, what religion, caste, group, nothing. Zero.
Wow. And we are talking of late 70s.
Yes, late 70s.
Really forward thinking in that sense.
Yeah. So this entire thing happened. She is also working in the department where I was working as a project assistant. And one of our intermediary, the lady who worked with my lab, I was the, you can say, key between the connection. So I used to call her a Megaduta. So that's how the marriage happened. And very much later, I think my mother or father, I don't remember, he said, look, marriage is fine, but you should not cook non-veg at home. This is their way of asking,
who is she?
And I said, no, don't worry. She comes from a very orthodox family. In fact, our behavior may be shocking to them instead of the other way around. So that is how the PhD happened. During that time, I had a chance to publish my paper in international conferences. And first time I went to USA in 1984, time when the Los Angeles Olympics were there. I couldn't go there, of course. We didn't have money. And that is another interesting part. So paper was published, but the conference people said this is a very prestigious thing. Unless you come and present it, it will not be accepted. The paper is accepted, it will be published as a book, but you have to come and present it. And it is.
And here also you had 4 days like your SSC or.
No, that conference paper is reviewed by 7 different people, and it is 1 year in advance. Enough time is there. It happens once in 2 years, 1 year in advance. So I said, Agwan karke patthar maro. So I wrote a message to her.
And just to set things in perspective, nowadays, folks, as viewers and listeners, going to US might just be about booking a ticket, especially if you're holding an Australian passport or any other big country's passport. You just book a ticket and go to the US. Listen to this part of the story, because these are times when, at least in India, it was very, very different. You could not just book a flight and go.
Yeah. We were given, if you're going abroad, without any reason, you are given about $100 for your expenditure, just $100. And because this was a conference from a prestigious institution into a prestigious, we had to apply to the Reserve Bank to get money, the permission to buy dollars. So I didn't have any money for the flight ticket, nothing. So I just wrote a mail, one of those air mails, to the conference secretary, saying that I'm a third world student interested in attending this, to meet all the people and all that. Some sob story I wrote just like that and forgot about it. About 2 months later, I get a message saying that we are very happy to receive you. We will waive your registration fee, dormitory fee, and we'll out of pocket give you $800. If you can manage to come, we don't have funds to give for flight ticket. If you can manage to come here, we give you
all of this.
Okay, that really triggered. So 5 of us went from India, and again I did a jugaad. I talked to Kuwait Airways guys, and they said you book 4 tickets, 1 ticket is free. So my ticket was free.
Plus you got your $800 also.
Yes. So which unfortunately my professor said, no, you can't be making profit on this. So we'll pool all the money and spend for the group, because all of them had very little dollars. We had to apply to the Reserve Bank of India, get permission, go and get it from that. So the permission was for $800 per person. And I was getting 800 there. Nothing to Reserve
And
Bank.
how much was the ticket cost out of all this?
Ticket cost, mine was free anyway. Their cost was about 12,000 or something like that, if I remember right. The dollar was about 9 rupees.
10 rupees. Okay. So probably $1,200, similar to now in a way.
So that conference was 1 week. And we had planned it such a way that 1 week in the dormitory, which was anyway free for me, for them it was paid. Then after that we visited different institutions where my professor had contact. We went to Princeton, we went to Georgia Tech, and then went to Florida.
All of this in 1984.
84.
Awesome.
Okay. Princeton, we went to the aerospace department, and that was more thing. The main thing was to go and see where Einstein used to work. That was my interest. And then we went to Paris.
In the same trip?
In the same thing. While coming back, we broke journey in Paris. And there we went to Sorbonne, another popular, well-known university, wherever my prof had contacts. And also a place called ONERA, ONERA, that's French equivalent of National Aerospace Laboratories. They're interesting. We went there to meet them, and the first introduction, like you did, they introduced all of us, every single person. We had not provided any information. They had already done all the research. They said, we know what you're working on. This defense project, this defense project, this defense project.
Amazing. And these were obviously pre-days of internet. The phone was probably not that popular, and they have done all this research.
They have done that. See, ONERA also works for Ministry of Defense, French Ministry of Defense. So they knew that we worked on DRDO projects.
Was India and France friendly even at that time?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Only enough at that time. So that then next day we are supposed to go to some other university. I told my prof, I've had enough of universities. I'm going to this Louvre Museum. I want to see that museum and then Eiffel Tower and all that. He was angry, mad at me, saying, "You are wasting your time. You have a whole life to look at that. This and I had nothing doing. I'm not coming." So I went to Eiffel Tower, came back, and then went to this museum. Going around the museum, in the sofa I see Professor. I said, "Am I hallucinating?" And he's sleeping there in front of one of the best paintings in the world.
Mona Lisa.
No, some other Dutch thing. Okay. He's sleeping. I said, "Sir, what happened?" And he started firing me. I said, "Why are you firing me?" He said, "We missed the train." "No, mera kya problem?" He says, "You were the translator. You were the one who will tell in French which one."
You knew French at that time?
To some extent.
Okay.
Because during masters, you have to have a foreign language. So we had two options, either learn Russian or French. Okay. And
you're talking of in MIT?
No, IISc, Indian stuff.
IISc, okay.
Like compulsory you have to learn foreign language.
Okay. And the options at that time was Russian?
Russian and French.
So this is this a indication of how the geopolitics at that time were and who were India's friends?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the Russian teacher was, a massive lady. We used to call her in a battleship. So we said, "Yahan nahi ja raha," because she used to twist people's ear if you make a mistake.
You were talking of master's students and she would come and, oh my God.
And she was so big, nobody. So we said, "Nahi, French, you should learn French." So that time, Alliance Française, that's French. So we used to go there in the evening and learn French. So meet the requirement. Because of that, I knew enough of to read boards and train. Right. So I was not there. These other four guys missed the train. To go there. Apparently,
all of them are now coming
to the Louvre Museum, and we are all so tired, really, literally traveling here, there, everywhere. The idea was, first week was done, the dormitory in the university. Second week, the idea was to travel by night so that you don't pay for the hotel. Not because we were stingy, we didn't have money, dollars.
Correct.
Rupiya to pade, the dollar nahi. So, train journey, go by Greyhound bus wherever in US, and then train journey in Europe. So everybody is dead tired. So he was lying on sleeping there. So that was fun.
I can imagine the visual. Probably these were not the days of so many cameras, but it would have been a good visual.
Oh yeah. On his retirement day, I mentioned this.
Like sitting in front of a world famous painting and sleeping.
First I thought I was hallucinating because he's supposed to be somewhere else. What am I seeing him here? नींद में आ रहा है. So that was a great trip. We traveled a lot. We met a lot of friends overseas.
And this was in a way you presenting your thesis to get your PhD.
Yes.
That is what this
getting
was
the
all
paper
about.
published. Those say you get your paper published, your thesis is more or less assured. Paper acceptance means it's new, important, and unique. You're not copied from anybody else, kind of thing.
So you're talking 41 years ago, roughly.
So that was the thing. And I came back.
Narahari becomes Dr. H.K. Narahari
in 86. Time. It took after that about a year and a half to finish the writing. This 84 was in August, September kind of thing. And Olympics time.
And not that I am going to understand at least, but at least I can sound a bit learned and important. What was the paper about?
The paper was about the combustion of one of the components of a rocket propellant called ammonium perchlorate. Okay, and it's what is called a monopropellant, which can propel an aircraft by itself. It's an oxidizer.
Okay,
used extensively in rocket thing. If you take for example, if you take the GSLV solid propellant rocket, or even the space shuttle solid propellant rockets, it's fuel based with oxidizer. So rockets are supposed to be, can work in space where there is no atmosphere oxygen. They carry their own oxygen. And the best way to carry oxygen, not as a gas, as a solid, because you have more density and you have more oxygen. Ammonium perchlorate is one of the chemicals. It forms about 78 to 80% of the propellant mass. In fact, the propellant itself is about 86-87% of the total rocket mass. When you launch a satellite, it is hardly 5% of the total thing which you takes off. No, only 5% is the, you can say, payload.
Everything else is just to take it there. Yeah. I'm nodding my head here as if I understand everything, but I'm not. So best is to change the topic and move.
Yeah, this had some anomalies which we were trying to explain theoretically, and it was using what is called computational fluid dynamics method of solving equations. This helped me in getting my job later.
Okay.
Rockets were interesting. I joined that group, but later.
So until now, you are still working at ISC and completing your PhD.
86. An opening happened in a place called Aeronautical Development Agency. It's a lab under the Defense Research and Development Organization. And there I landed the job because one, I knew how to use computers already from the Indian Institute of Science, and I was proficient, not fully, but enough to be able to work around with what is called computational fluid dynamics.
What was, sorry, I'm getting digressed because you said computers. What were computers like back then?
My first computer was based on cards. You have cards, you punch holes in that, and you feed the cards. It was one job at a time. It's an IBM 360 machine. So you feed the cards, it'll read the cards, it'll execute the program, and the printout will come. Once this is finished, another job is
So
taken.
the way you punch the holes is the programming?
Machine.
Okay.
You type in that. For example, if x is greater than 100, do this. If x less than 100, do that.
And that is a program you put, and that will punch holes accordingly into that card.
Yeah, and holes you cannot read because it's all.
Of course.
Yeah. The machine will read. And then after that came what is called a DEC 10, Digital Equipment Corporation DEC 10 computer, where no cards. It's a revolution for us. No cards. All your programs is in the machine, and it could work on 10 different programs at a time. Time sharing, as you say, real time sharing computer. So that was the one which I had worked. Finally, my thesis worked on that. And it had a grand memory of, I think, 32 megawords.
Okay.
100th of the phone what we use now.
So you have to even a text will be more.
You have to be smart in how you program, reuse the same words. For example, if I have density here, the same word density will mean something else down the line, because that many words only I can have. Right? If I say you write a poem with only 12 words, so each word you have to give different meaning. It's possible in Sanskrit.
Correct.
In English, it's kind of difficult. So that's how I think.
So,
ended up with a job.
So you're a master of English also in a way, because you have to be precise with all this. Okay. So sorry, we digressed there, but since you said computers, it was interesting to understand the view then. So that got you into ADA, is what you said. Yes. You had an opportunity to work at ADA. What is ADA for all of us?
That time, India was interested in designing and developing an aircraft, combat aircraft or fighter plane. They had done that in the 50s. That is HF-24 Marut, you would have heard that old time plane, which was supposed to be engine development in Egypt and aircraft body frame developed in India. Body frame was developed in India. Engine never came out of Egypt because Egypt got into its own political. This was the time when Gamal Abdel Nasser was the president and all that.
And Egypt, as in Egypt's own engineering organizations,
yes,
or like
the
American
defense industry was supposed to develop an engine suited for this.
Okay.
And we would join together to make an aircraft. It was the 50s. After that, nothing happened. We were only buying aircraft. So the government decided somewhere in the 80s that India should start its own design, make in India kind of thing. So 86, they sanctioned a project called Light Combat Aircraft to replace MiG-21s. Till that time, India had not done anything in aerospace. From 50s to 86, 30 years, India had not designed anything. So there was
not just for defense, but not even for commercial. They had not
even now nothing for commercial.
Okay.
At least now for defense, LCA is flying. Right. So that time they wanted to design that, and Aeronautical Development Agency was formed specifically for that purpose. as a nodal agency, as an autonomous body and there is some government autonomous body under the Minister of Defense. So they were given a brief saying that this is the specifications for which you have to develop the aircraft. So at that time they were trying to recruit people in specific areas. They were also told you cannot recruit the following people. Like you cannot have machines, you cannot have draftsmen, you cannot have this. You can have a few areas only you can do. Rest all you have to give it off to other labs.
Correct.
So aerodynamics was one thing which they said you guys can do, ADA can do. So they were looking for people for that at that time. So I was there, luckily for me, who knew how to use computers and who also dabbled in computational fluid dynamics. So I got a job. Right. So that was in 86 time frame. And then we were working on the initial specs. So that time the government realized that since we had not done anything for 30-40 years, there was no understanding of awareness of the modern technology and developments. So we needed a collaborator. So that time they, I think, signed an agreement with a French industry called Avion Marcel Dassault. Breguet Aviation, it was AMD-BA, Avion Marcel Dassault Breguet Aviation. With that, they signed an agreement and they would guide us in the initial design, conceptual design. That company is the one now called Dassault Systems, the ones who make Mirage 2000 and Rafale and all that. They have been making from a long time.
So, in a study in
in the World War I itself, they were contributing to aircraft. So that's a well-known company. So when they started, they said you need all these following tools, which were part of the agreement they would give to us. But we didn't have a computer. So they all worked on what is called IBM 3090 computer, and India did not have that. We had ordered for it. The Department of Commerce in USA stopped it. Those days, अपना कट्टी चल रहा था ना USA के साथ. So the French guy said,
USA के साथ my limited knowledge is कि बहुत time तक कट्टी चल रहा था. It's only in the early 90s that changed.
Later only. So the French guy said, you send your engineers here, then they can work here, but that will be charged. So we had no options. So they said that there. They said computational fluid dynamics, French bhi pata hai, computation. I was So the director, Dr. Kota Harinaran, who was the program director, a great person, one of those very rare, honest person who had under him controlled thousands of crores of rupees. But he didn't touch anything. He was, till the end, he was only going around in his old Fiat. So he called me and said, look, you have to go there, but before you do aerodynamics, you have to convert all these drawings into CAD, computational that design that, into that, you have to create all the models. And after that only, you may have to work. Do you have any objections to that? So I told him, sir, you are sending me to France, Paris, most beautiful city. You are giving me $100 a day. Okay.
That's a lot in those days.
Yeah, a lot in those days. And you want me to learn Katia, which is a CAD, sir. This, sir, I am willing to learn Kathakali if you want. What is my problem? Really, you see, those days, going there, staying there for 3 months, actually problem was 6 months, but in between Christmas came, and then in Christmas in France, everything shuts. From 2nd December till mid-January, nothing happens.
Correct.
So they said, we are also tired eating the same old, mashed potatoes and bread toast. So we came back and I went. So 4 people they chose. 3 from ADA, 1 from National Aerospace Laboratory, Dr. Desai. 4 of us were there, and we would interact with the French professionals and then make changes. First, I created all the objects in the computer, and make changes to that, and then start computing that. So that's how. And again, the knowledge of French, however tutti frutti, enough.
It helps in those days, especially.
Yeah, it helped me
because I'm not sure if Paris has changed even now in that sense, but English is a bit more acceptable. But having also been there, I can tell you that if you don't know French, you're really lost because they don't even attempt to speak English.
No, they don't like English. They told me, you in Pakistan have a 40-year war, we in British have a 1,000-year war. And he told me what we treat as saint. He was burnt as a witch in England.
Who are they referring to?
I think, I forget her name.
It also comes in those, I remember some.
So this is their animosity. And many times we go to a supermarket and I have spoken in Kannada. Straight away start talking in Kannada. Then somebody says, you speak English? Okay. बेटा बात कर रहे
तो काफी जुगाड़ू हो आप.
Oh yeah.
जुगाड़ निकाल लेते हो.
$100 a day we lived happily. We watched movies, operas, and everything.
Yeah.
In spite of that, you really can't spend money much. So that was a very, very interesting phase where I used to interact with them.
Family was also
later. I decided to take. So that time I said, "Abhi foreign jayega nahi, pata nahi." So this is a chance. Money is there. Hotel room is there. So I flew both Hunsur and Anita to France. And then we went to London on a weekend, like true billionaires, which we were not. So that was fun. And she used to.
Is this all in the same trip when you had come back to India?
Second trip. When I again went back in February.
Okay, right.
So another 3 months there.
Right.
So that those people would come and then there will be reviews and all that. So that was a excellent thing. And I used to write down what all we discussed in books, notebooks and all that. So that was later this helped me in becoming a teacher later. So that time
you had your notes.
Yeah, I still have whatever we discussed with them and why he said this, why he said that. So that continued my work in ADA later. So we used to do all this, and then we had fancy. That time US relaxed these computers and we got it. The IBM mainframe. And then this project started progressing. Initially there was a lot of skepticism. Nothing will happen. Yeah, paper project. Ye kya kar lenge kind of thing. So once things started happening, so a lot of people started coming from the government. Including Air Vice Marshals, Air Chief Marshals, Army guys, and that time the scientific advisor to Ministry of Defense was Dr. Abdul Kalam. So he would come before them because he is the one who has to answer them. No, see, once he came there and he went through all that, seeing, and we explained to them. So with 5-6 of us who had gone to France and who could, what the director thought could talk reasonably well without getting caught.
So you got to present everything.
Yeah, we were the Hunsur Murthis, the other people used to call us. That had its negative points. Sometimes these guys would show up at 9 o'clock in the night. We had to wait till they come.
Correct.
So that one incident where I interacted with Dr. Kalam. So he came and saw all this, and then I let slip that I am also from MIT. So he, kind of livened up, and then said, "Okay, what are you doing now? What is your new future plan?" So I said, I have computed right now the wing and fuselage I am planning next, integration, and then the vertical fin and all that. I said, okay. And he went and talked to everybody. So Dr. Kota called me, "Kya bataya raha? What did you tell him?" I said, he's not going to remember this. He said, no, he has in memory like a computer. And I think about a year later, I saw him again. And he said, last time you said you were going to do this. Have you done that? I said, I don't think, kya bataya?
Really?
Yes. Amazing. See, that is his, technically he was only a BTech. Same degree as mine, first degree. But his memory and man management was amazing. Every one of them he asked, last time you said this, have you done this?
It's truly a computer where...
Yeah, as a manager, if you remember what your person has done, he will respect you much more.
Yeah.
So I had done partially. And then I said, there's something called side slip when the aircraft flies like this instead of straight. I said, I have not been able to do that because my technical reason. He understood. He said, keep trying. So that was,
sorry for digressing slightly, but I understand the advisor part, but what was he doing at that time?
At that time, see, he started as a director of a lab. Before that, he was in the ISRO space. And he was part of the SLV, first satellite launch vehicle. India launched a satellite into that. He was the director of that.
Okay.
So from there, he was transferred to a lab called Defense Research and Development Lab in Hyderabad.
DRDL. Okay.
DRD was the main office. This is one of them. These are all the holding
associated. Okay.
Associated. So there, again, he is a very dynamic person. So he managed to convince all the politicians, everything, that India should have a missile program. So he is the, you can say, the one who drove all this Agni and this and that missile program. He got the money, and DRDL suddenly become, from a government organization, become top class. Because he was a person who drive, and he was very simple. The DRDL had a big bungalow for directors. Apparently, he said, I don't want that. I'm not married. I don't have kids. Just give me 2 rooms in the guest house, 1 personal, 1 meeting. The rest you give it to somebody else who is family.
Wow.
That's how he was. That's how he was. And they say when he passed away, his entire ownership was some half a dozen pants, shirts, and some veena, and some several hundred books.
Yeah.
That's it.
Really simple.
So that was.
It's one thing to be alone, but it's another thing to be selfless, right? It's a combination of both. It seems like. There are many people who have probably been alone, but that doesn't mean they did not splurge wealth or.
Yeah. And he once narrated in, I think it's probably there in YouTube also, how he learned management techniques from Dr. Satish Dhawan. So he said first SLV launch failed. So Dhawan said, okay, told the director, you don't go to the press, I'll go. He went there and explained and got all the things. When it succeeded, he told Kalam, you go and present now.
Wow.
So he owned the failure, but the success, he said, you go.
He's of the team. Amazing.
So he said that,
and he followed that as well.
He said. So from one lab director, he became Director General of DRDO. From there, he became scientific advisor, then the President of India.
Wow. And I'm just bringing this conversation back again, that with so many things happening in his own work that he's doing, he has the role of an advisor, and yet he's able to remember at the minutest level what
that is really
everybody is doing.
Yeah, that is how he's able to bring everybody in.
And then obviously his ability to kind of manage and use things effectively.
Yeah,
that's
the management, you can say, strength of his. Because of that, I still remember what he did to me several decades later. Otherwise, many people have come and gone.
Correct.
The only other incident I remember is Vice Admiral, and the Admiral had come, Navy guys. And the Vice Admiral was all skeptical. All pictures you're showing, how can you compute the forces here and forces that? I had a feeling he's trying to show off with his boss. So I said, sir, it's possible. For example, if I make a small change in the aircraft's canopy, the bubble, I can compute and find out what is the effect forces on that, so that the person who is designing the plastic bubble will know what thickness and where to do it. You can do it that fast. I said, a small change I can do it, but otherwise it takes time. I said, sir, you have several other things. You go through all that. By the time if it's there, I will just raise my hand and I will show you. So Dr. Gota is looking at me. He said, आज तक तो बोल रहा था हफ्ते लगता है computation में क्या बता रहा है? Then he looked at me. Then I did some dua and I lifted my hand and he was staring at me. Then I brought and showed him 2 pictures. You see, this is a change I made. I told you a small change. I said, oh, okay. And then I see, you can see the difference. There is a pressure and difference you can see. I said, okay. Interview. And then Dr. Gota said, what did you do? I said, sir, in that color palette, I changed the limits. So from minus 0.2 to minus 6, और 6 को मैंने 0.5 किया तो ये कलर चेंज हो गया. Why do you take that kind of risk, man? These are big guys. Anyway, हो गया बस आगे मत करो ऐसे.
So what he was trying to understand was that the computation can work this fast.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to test.
And then this led into another. They went back and then they fired all their people, saying that what the hell you guys, they are doing so much work, you are not doing anything. So वहाँ के लोग आगे, they have their own design bureau people. No, they came and said, what is this? You're doing that. You have to do it for us.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, we
digressed quite a little bit of classified career. So
correct.
That's how
we digressed quite a bit. But that was how your journey was at EDA. You had a chance to meet with dignitaries like APJ sir.
Yeah, I met even Air Chief Marshal, Air Marshal, admirals.
And these are the designs that you worked on, which my ignorance here, but is this what eventually got into Tejas?
Yes, it's the outer shape. When I say it's not the full design, the outer shape is what is aerodynamics decides that. The other inside parts, the strength and weight and all, that is structure. That is the major chunk of work.
Right.
Okay. So
that is also done at ADA?
That's done at ADA. Okay. Partly done at ADA. Fabrication, everything is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. The electronics is some other lab. A whole lot of things. My work, you can say, initial what is called conceptual design. So after that, once it is frozen, my importance went down. No longer the bhav I used to have. Me and my other friend who were there in France. So now the structures guys became important. They have to design it. No? They have to fabricate it. So at that time I was getting bored, repeating the same.
What time frame are we talking?
This was about 95, about 9 years.
Oh, so you're saying that what you started doing in 88, 89 took you about 6 years to...
Yes.
These are long time frames.
Yes, because the computers were slow. That was the best at that time, which they would sell to India. And the equations you are trying to solve are very complex. They have been complex all the time. There is something called Navier-Stokes. Two different scientists, Navier and Stokes, joined together and wrote the equations. So, trying to get them to work, it takes that kind of... Because if I submit a job, it will take me 1 week to figure out whether the job I submitted was right or some stupid error is there and the whole thing trashed out.
Correct.
I wouldn't know till a week. So that is how it happened. Okay. And it takes that time, not only for India, for anybody else.
Okay. So that's a 7 or 8 odd year program. When that got over, I understand that after that longer time, when you get a break and you have nothing to do, you get bored. But again, for our understanding, there was nothing else in the pipeline that you could have picked up. This was it.
That's again the mistake India made. At that time, if they had started another project, whatever experience we had in the aerodynamic design of this, we could have started working on that. But they didn't do that. So now they have another project called AMCA, Advanced Modern exactly, I don't know, combat aircraft project going on. But it wasn't there at that time. So if they had started, whatever, what you call the technical history, what we had learned, could have been
used there.
Used there. But that didn't happen. So 96, I got bored and somebody called me from the IT industry and said, we'll triple your salary. I said, you don't even know my salary. He said, doesn't matter. You bring me the pay slip, 3 times triple it. And I said, look, you guys are commercial software, no? I don't know this COBOL language. He said, no, we are not hiring you for programming. We are hiring you to manage people.
Interesting. So, all right. So this is also a good logical point to take a break.
Yeah.
Because now it looks like your career is taking a shift.
Yes.
And a very different shift. Very different shift, and then coming back. So viewers, don't go anywhere. This is also going to be an interesting part 2 again. So in the part 1, we saw how this is something controversial, I'm going to say, but a potential Nepo kid makes it as a rocket scientist, and now the rocket scientist is going to get into other directions, and that rocket has now launched. So now there is another rocket ready to launch. So we'll learn about that in the next episode. Don't go anywhere. Join us back. This is your host and host and Dr. H.K. Narahari signing off from part 1. We'll be back with the next part soon. Thank you.
Thank you.